All right, we are going to learn how to write information to a text file and read information in from a text file. When and why would you want to do this? To read information in, you may have downloaded a CSV or something from the internet, and you need to get that data from permanent storage on your computer into the live Python environment. Or if you're writing, you may want to be writing a new output file, or perhaps keeping track of errors, keeping a log file. There's all sorts of reasons that you need the ability to pass back and forth between stored information and live information in the script. So let's start by defining variables that tell us where the stuff is going to be stored and what the text file is. So let's start by defining a directory. Directory. This is a variable that I'm choosing the name of. If you remember, we said we use a lowercase r to ensure that all of the backslashes in the string are treated as actual backslashes instead of escape characters. We could as easily use double backslashes if we prefer. But I'm going to say the directory I'm going to store everything in is c:\users /my id /desktop. And I'm going to say the file name is that directory plus a file name. I'm going to give it like a big name so that I can find it later. Okay, that should be easy to find. ZZZ should put it right at the bottom. And we'll call it temp output.txt. Question. At this point, are either of these things an actual file path or an actual text file? The answer is no. This text file does not currently exist on my desktop. All I have done right here is define two strings. Python has not processed the content of these strings yet. They're just a bunch of letters. Okay. To make that file and get any information written into it, we use a command, and it's such a crummy syntax. I'm going to type it first and then I'll unpack it for you. Every time I use this syntax, I have to go look it up on the internet to see exactly how it's supposed to look because I always forget. So this is a combination command called with open. Once upon a time in Python, you had to open a file, read it or write it, and then remember to close it. With open is a sort of later addition that allows you to use that indent structure like you have for a for loop or for an if, and it will hold the file open while you do the stuff that's indented, and then as soon as you back out of the indent, it closes the file automatically. So with open is great because it's tidy, it takes care of things for you, but it is an awkward syntax. So with open, in parentheses here, you put the file name, and then you set a flag. And there are three options I know of. There may be other options. W is for write, so we are going to open a file that is writable. R is for read, and A is for append. And if you have the W flag set, every time you run the script, it's going to start over, clear the text file, and write new. If you want instead to append new stuff on the bottom of an existing file without overwriting it, you need the A flag. The flag has to be put in quotes. They could be single or double quotes. And then you end the parenthesis. And you can give the open file while it's open a nickname. So ofile is just a variable name that you choose. Why am I using ofile? Because years and years ago, the guy who taught me how to do this used ofile as his open file variable. A lot of people, if you look online, will use just plain old F, but you have to give the file a nickname while it's open. So I'm calling it ofile. Now we need to write something in ofile. So we could say ofile.write, and then we could put some string in there. Let's put, I will not chew gum. But that's going to be a small file and it's not going to be any interesting. So let's do a for loop and we'll write it multiple times. Let's say for counter in range 0 to 21. We'll write it 20 times and then we need to tab it in so that it happens underneath the for loop, so that it happens 20 times. And then that's it. I don't have to remember to close that file. So what's going to happen is I'm going to run this and it will create a new file called zzz temp output, and it will, in that file it will write I will not chew gum 20 times. By the way, I didn't highlight it as we went along, but .write is the method to write to a text file. So let's try it. We do it, we don't get an error, it doesn't look like anything happened. But if we go find my desktop, where's my desktop? Let's see. When I have the video running, I'm not sure I can get this menu. Here we go. On my desktop, which is a mess, I'm sorry, but way down the bottom, no, not there. Where is it? We should have a file called zzz. That is my desktop. I don't see it. Well, let's go inspect things. It did not throw an error. I see the problem. I need a backslash here. Okay, so now if I run it, it should show up on my desktop. Somewhere I have a file called desktop zzz. But so now that it has the backslash in there, it should show up on my desktop, and there it is. We can open it. Oh, I forgot to put a backslash n in it to go to a new line. All right, so let's close it, and we'll put the backslash n in there for the new line. Run it again. Look at how easy this is to have the Python just write it for you. There we go. I will not chew gum 20 times. And you notice it did overwrite what was there before. The I will not chew gum without the line feed. All right, so that's writing to a file. It's pretty easy. Reading from a file works somewhat similarly. So I looked at my desktop and I said, what do I have on my desktop that is a CSV that we could just kind of use for practice? And I have two CSV files. I'm going to use this one because it's small. It's only 1 kilobyte. It's a CSV file. We'll look at it. We'll open it with Notepad. And it has 10 lines and they're fairly short. So I'm going to read this CSV into Python. I better get the name because that's not a name I'm going to remember. So we'll go to Properties, and I'm going to copy the file name. Now here I'm going to define an input file. Again, that's just a variable name. And it's going to be directory, because it is on my desktop, plus r \, and then that file name with a .csv. I'm going to do, now there's a little bit of prep here. Let's see, not yet. Let's do with open first. With open input file. And then this time the flag is going to be R because I just want to read it. I don't want to write anything there. I don't want to edit it at all. And I'll call it in file. All right. I could read the first line of the input file and store it in a variable. I'll call the variable line. And the command to read a line is infile.readline. It's a method. And if I right now printed, it would just print the first line in that file. If I did line equals infile.readline again, it would go to the second line. Now this is a little tricky. This is why you learn how to do a while loop. I could say while line, and then, do some stuff and move to the next line, move to the next line. And when I'm out of lines, when infile.readline is like null or nothing, this while loop should stop. So it's not while line equals something. It's not while line's greater than anything. It's while there is a line, while line exists. Let's make a list and we'll store the lines in a list. So we'll say list of lines equals, we'll make an empty list. And so while there's a line, we're going to append it to the end of list of lines. And then remember, inside of a while loop, you have to have something that ends the while loop eventually. So what that's going to be is we're going to move on to the next line. And then there'll be a line and it'll get appended and it'll move to the next line. There'll be a line, it'll get appended. Eventually we'll run out of lines and the while line condition will fail. And then out here at the very end of the script, all the way out against the margin, let's just look at list of lines. And we have an error, and that's because I don't have the underscore in infile. And now I didn't put an S on list of lines. And now I have infile without an underscore. This is debugging. There we go. Okay, so it opened input file. It read the first line. It had an empty list. It stuck the first line at the end of the list. It went to the next line, etc., etc., etc. Here is the whole list. And of course, because this is a list, I can pull, just one item out of it, like the 6th item. Okay. What if I was only interested in one of these? Like, what if I only wanted to know what VDO5 was? Well, I could put an if condition in here. If line, the first 4 characters. Now, how are we going to get the first 4 characters of this line? We start at 0, and we take 1, 2, 3, and stop just before the comma, which is number 4. So if the characters in the line from 0 to stop just before 4 are equal to VD, I think that's a 0, 5, put it in the list. I'm going to tab this in. Why am I tabbing this in and not this? This is what I want to happen only if the condition is met. I want the line to be stuck in the list only if the condition is met. But whether the condition is met or not, I want to go on and read the next line. And then I'm going to take list of line 6 off because there shouldn't be now 6 things in it. But if I run it again, now it just gets me the one that begins with VDO5. Maybe I could just get the VDs. Like if the first 0, 1 characters are VD, now I get the VDs, I lose the GEOs. You see how this works? If I want the GEOs, I think some of them began with GEO. That would be 0 to 3. There are the ones that begin with the GEO. So this is the way you bring data from a CSV into a list that's live and active here in your Python environment. So you can do analysis on it.